Sir Mastruzzo, it's very nice to have you here within Moscow, once again, Higher School of Economics. The first thing that really comes to my mind is about how do you see the perspective of commons in the larger area of public policy program, and how it should be built up in a way that students turn out as strong, conscious, with a personality which is pro-social, or while they are public policy analyst. What's your take on it?
I think that the Commons have, challenged this that was seen as the progressive reduction of the public in the world. Okay, starting from the mid-80s, a movement of ideas that was successful. Starting, if you want to mention names, with Mrs. Thatcher in Great Britain and Ronald Reagan in the US, this movement that was challenging the public sector as being inefficient, slow, not adjusting to dynamic, change in developed countries, and promoting a reduction of the purpose of the public, and an encouragement of privatization of services of general interest, and also of competition in other sectors, and mixing the two questions: services of general interest, things that are of interest to everybody, and other things that are instead commercial, more naturally commercial. This movement has been recently challenged by the notion of the commons. The commons being, something which is neither private nor public, and affects everybody, and both sides, public and private. The commons being the right, and in fact the fundamental right, to have access to primary goods, services, spaces that are necessary for the development of the human persona in everybody. This is the concise, definition of the notion of commons. What are they? They are as various as water for whoever is thirsty, and this we recognize as a fundamental right, although in the world we have at the moment 660 million people who have no access to drinkable water. We understand as the right to communication. So from water, being thirsty, to communication, being curious, So we understand as a commons the internet as it is now. We do not think that anyone should be prevented from having access, irrespective of anyone's income. So this notion reproposes the idea of why is property there and to what purpose, public property or private property, in a completely different way, and reshuffles it. Reshuffles the reasons of public action, political action, and also the reasons to justify, private property, as it is, and the social function of private property.
That leads to a second question, that your academic engagement with Higher School of Economics is not a new thing. It has been built over the years. And Professor Bilyayeva, who's our academic supervisor, is fairly known to you as a comrade in arms about developing the track that we have, human rights and democratic governance and policy analysis track. How do you see that in a society which has been basically retreating, the state's capacity is retreating in its engagement? What should be the new impetus for the students who are basically trying to make a career out of education?
I think that political analysts of the future should have the priority of understanding that, although important, a verbal statement of rights is not enough. So, for instance, and this is something that we've been building in the last 5 years together, I think, understanding human rights fully means also guaranteeing access to those rights. Okay? If I am entitled, to be healthy, and this is a fundamental human right, okay, and I'm not entitled, I don't have material access to the means for me to be healthy or for my kids to be healthy, then I'm being denied that human right. And the simple declaration of that right is of no purpose to me. Okay? So we are building together that, the idea that the practical establishment of what we say is just is crucial for us to go on believing in what we say. We can see that now with populism all around the world. People have an idea of the rights they have, for instance, the rights to have a job, an occupation that makes a possible income for themselves. And when they see this right denied materially, they protest. And they do it the way they can. For instance, they vote for whoever promises them that they will have that right back. For instance, jobs, you could see it with the last presidential elections in America that were won on that platform. The first keyword was jobs back to whoever is a citizen of this place, and the second was peace, appeasement with the other big world power, which, by the way, was the two keywords with which the Bolsheviks got power in 1917.
I just have a small, that's like coming up the full of circle, like 100 years back and 100 years from now. That comes to another question, that the topics that you covered during the past 3 days, teaching about how to teach global governance, you're talking about a more just society and the legal mechanism that has to ensure that all. Coming to the point of your point of view, the way you have applied it all in your University College of Torino, and you have met our students and the way interaction has happened, both at the formal level in the class as well as outside it. How would you assess the whole public policy analysis program's journey so far and your co-journey as a partner institution, and the way, what are the things that has to be strengthened, and what are the ways that you see the bright spot in our...
I understand this program, this master program, as an extremely important feature of the High School of Economics. The rate of internationalization is evident not only in the variety of provenance in the students, but also in the variety of subjects of studies that you allow the students to propose to you. The students have been, I think, put in a condition of being active, subjects of this program. They've been enriching, the program because it was given room for them to do so. And this, I think, is a conquest of these last 5 years. We've been exchanging on that. We've been trying to do that at the International University College as well. I think that is the first big feature of this program, the first big, perquisite of this program, that students are, encouraged in their talents. Okay, so that hierarchies are seen as functional to something and not just as a static bureaucracy, that impedes your movements and your intellectual movements, or as I like to put it, intellectual nomadism.
Professor, you have been just in the very middle of a very fantastic lecture. I have a last question to ask you before we kind of sign off. If at all, there are certain 3 things that you would like to say to the 21st century generation of students who are racing against time, racing against each other, in order to get a strong job, security, where the world has been falling apart in this part of the world. And I'll say, I'm talking about the European space. The growth has been stagnated. What are the things that you would suggest for the people who are studying policy analysis, right? And there's a kind of a plateau situation on many of the subjects, including migration, labor laws, and so on and so forth. What are the ideas that you would like to say to those people who are going to be in the job market?
The feature of today, what defines best, I think, today's world is communication. Okay? We have, for the first time in human history, access to an enormous amount of information. This makes us, makes it possible for us to compare. Okay? And this comparison brings an element of justice in it. Since we do want to have a just world, we compare different parts of the world and we try to understand what is not equal and what is not equitable. This is, I think, the new problem of a political analyst today. That people in different parts of the world are now informed, which wasn't the case 50 or 100 years ago, and they take it as a problem of justice. Information brings, exposes differences, but also inequities, and they challenge that. And so that is the job of the political analyst tomorrow, which is how to solve that. How to solve not only the perception, but also the background of that perception.
The lecture's been really interesting. Professor Mastruzzo spoke a lot about, I guess, a lot about some of the key issues that we're all facing. Whether I'm originally from Australia, and I've done a lot of research in Brazil, and Professor Mastruzzo spoke a lot about the Amazon and so on. So the issues that have been covered in the lecture are really ones that touch all of us. They're sort of common concerns, and there are enormous challenges that are going to be faced not only by us and my generation, to talk about generations, but future generations. So I think it's good in terms of the student experience for them to come to a lecture like this and have some of these questions asked for them to think about.
To say that personally I'm a big fan of Professor Mastruzzo because his manner of lecturing, his manner of producing and sending information to the auditorium is kind of very demanding and very interesting to listen. And especially in case of this global agenda, this controversial topic of world crisis, of banksters who are affecting world economy and lead our civilization to certain catastrophic events, it is very interesting to listen his position and also to discuss it in the class, because we've got students here with very different backgrounds, we've got professors with different backgrounds, with their own view on such kind of events, and this series of lectures is very good possibility to have very fruitful and very demandable discussion about the issue, and probably we will give our students some vision how they can develop their own works, their own papers, if they want to research something related to the topic.
From Morocco, Master Students Public Policy, second year. So I really enjoyed, even I didn't come today, I was focused on global governance and the global actor, but this class actually captures some information about view and about, our professor give us fruitful information about the upcoming views about security and common sense and so on. So thank you very much for this event, and I wish hopefully I will join other events.
My name is Simone. I am an exchange student from Torino, and I'm staying in Moscow for a year, and it was a very interesting and challenging to have a professor from my university here in Moscow to talk about such important issues that are always more important in the economic field, and I think that the new challenges of economics will be to connect the wealth and environmental issues to the economic growth of the states and nations. So I think the topics we covered in these lectures will be the most important challenges of new economic activity. And so it was very important for me to attend these seminars, also because I study economics, and maybe it will be important for my future economic career in research. Okay, so thank you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Camilla and I'm 23. I'm from Turin as well, but I study law, not economics. But I think that this lesson is really interesting because it doesn't provide answers, but it stimulates questions, which is always a good thing for me. And I don't know, even if I've never studied economics as Simone, but no, sorry, you did actually. But I think it's understandable, and it's, I don't know, it comes from a common background, but it's, well, I don't know.
Peter, I'm from the HCE, the Department of Public Policy, the first year, the master's program. So I have been attending the lectures of Professor Giuseppe Mastruzzo for 3 days, all the 3 lectures. And despite the fact that I'm really far away from their economics and all the economic stuff, like the science and all the matters connected with that, I really appreciated the different things that can be used by me as a political analyst. And mostly I like the part about the borders and about the different communications concerning the borders and probably the future. So.
My name is Ruki. I'm also a student from Public Policy Department here at HIC. I've attended this lecture twice, yesterday and today, and what was more intriguing was Professor's discussion on borders control. This is quite interesting to view his own perspective about borders control, and it's quite a privilege to get to be in a lecture where you get to see different people's idea on global issues, and I really encourage such lectures to keep going on so that we as different people from different parts of the world can get a common ground on global issues.
My name is Daria. I'm from the Primorsk district of Russia. It's very far away from Moscow, but here I study at the HSC, of course, at Public Policy Department, the first year student. And last 3 days I attended lectures by Giuseppe Mastruzzo, and it was a very good experience for me because here I started listening to different opinions. When you're being asked very controversial questions, they can seem obvious, but when you start listening to different points of views, you just learn a lot. So it was just a very good experience for me in that.
Hello, I am Galantola. I'm a student of first year student of program for political analysis and public policy. I am very interested how the lecture was given. The conference was very interesting. At the beginning, I don't really expect such an interesting thing, so I am very lucky to participate in the full of the conference from the beginning day until now. I have got a broad idea regarding how social science should have to cope with the current condition of the world, the idea of this border and the global citizenship. And I also like how lecturer from here, our university, and the professor were dealing with the issue, sometimes challenging each other. I really got very interesting knowledge that can help me in my future education.